The massive alien warship hung in Earth's orbit like a dark cloud of impending doom. Its metallic surface, scarred from countless battles, reflected the pale sunlight as smaller scout ships buzzed around it like angry wasps. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Gray stood tall, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the control panels. "These humans are proving to be more troublesome than expected," he muttered, his four eyes blinking in sequence. The initial scans of Earth had shown a relatively young spacefaring civilization, one that should have cowered at the sight of the Dominion's mighty fleet. Instead, the humans had responded to their arrival with what appeared to be casual interest. The main screen flickered to life, showing the human space station where the diplomatic meeting would take place. It was a simple structure, nothing like the grand battle stations of the Dominion, yet it served its purpose. Admiral Gray straightened his ceremonial armor, making sure each plate gleamed perfectly. "Sir, the human representatives are ready to receive us," reported Lieutenant Pike, his antennae twitching nervously. "They seem unusually calm about this whole situation." Admiral Gray snorted, a sound that made his junior officers flinch. "They simply don't understand the gravity of their situation. Once they see our power, they'll fall in line like all the others." The diplomatic party transported to the human space station. Admiral Gray led his team of 4 officers through the station's corridors, noting the primitive yet functional design. The humans they passed showed no signs of fear. Some even smiled and nodded in greeting, which only served to irritate the Admiral further. The conference room was small but well lit. 3 human representatives sat at the table, 2 male and 1 female, all wearing simple blue uniforms with Earth government patches. The lead representative, a man with graying hair, stood up and smiled. "Welcome to Earth Station 1, he said warmly. "I'm Ambassador Wilson. We're looking forward to productive discussions." Admiral Gray took his seat, his tail carefully positioned through the specially designed chair. "Ambassador Wilson, let me be direct. The Dominion has come to offer Earth a choice. Join us as a protectorate or face the consequences." Wilson's smile didn't waver. "That's quite an opening statement, Admiral. Perhaps we could discuss more peaceful alternatives." "You don't seem to grasp the situation," Admiral Gray said, his voice growing harder. "The Dominion has conquered 12 star systems. Our military might is unmatched. We possess weapons that would make your worst nightmares seem pleasant." The human representatives exchanged glances. The female representative actually covered her mouth, and for a moment Admiral Gray thought he'd finally sparked some fear, until he realized she was suppressing a laugh. Anger flared in all 4 of his eyes. "You find this amusing. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. We have brought our ultimate weapon, a beast so fearsome it has broken the will of entire planets." Wilson leaned forward, suddenly looking interested. "A beast, you say? Well, that's fascinating. We humans have some experience with beasts ourselves. Your primitive Earth creatures cannot compare to what we possess," Admiral Gray declared, standing up to his full height of nearly 8 feet. "Our beast is the product of centuries of genetic engineering, designed for maximum lethality." The 3rd human representative, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Would you be interested in a friendly competition, Admiral? Your beast against one of ours?" Admiral Gray's mouth split in what his species considered a smile, a gesture that had sent other races running in terror. Yet these humans didn't even flinch. "You would pit one of your creatures against our ultimate weapon. Do you wish to sacrifice one of your animals so badly?" Wilson shrugged. "No sacrifice needed. We're quite confident in our choice. Shall we arrange a demonstration for tomorrow?" The Admiral slammed his hand on the table, making his own officers jump. The humans didn't even blink. "Tomorrow, then. And after your beast is destroyed, perhaps you'll finally show proper respect to the Dominion." As the alien delegation left the conference room, Wilson turned to his colleagues. "Should we tell them?" The female representative grinned. "No, let them find out tomorrow. I can't wait to see their faces." Admiral Gray marched back to his ship, his tail lashing in fury. These humans would learn. Tomorrow, they would finally understand the true meaning of fear. He had no idea that he was the one about to receive an education in what truly made a fearsome beast. The demonstration arena had been quickly set up in a large hangar bay of the Earth station. Metal barriers created a circular area about 50 meters in diameter, with observation platforms raised safely above. Admiral Gray stood at his designated spot, his scaled chest puffed out with pride as his crew made final preparations to reveal their ultimate weapon. "Humans," he announced, his voice booming through the hangar, "what you are about to witness is the pinnacle of Dominion bioengineering, a creature so fierce that hardened warriors have fled at its mere presence." Ambassador Wilson stood with his team on the opposite platform, still wearing that irritatingly calm smile. The handful of human spectators gathered seemed more like they were attending a sports event than a demonstration of deadly force. Some had even brought snacks. "Begin the release sequence," Admiral Gray commanded, raising one clawed hand dramatically. The side door of a massive containment unit slowly opened with a hiss of hydraulics. Red warning lights flashed as heavy restraints were withdrawn. A deep growl echoed through the hangar, making the metal walls vibrate. The alien officers stepped back nervously, even though they were safely above the arena floor. From the shadows emerged a creature that seemed to be made of nightmares. It stood nearly as tall as the 8-foot aliens, its body covered in armored scales that shifted colors like oil on water. 6 muscular legs ended in razor-sharp claws, and its elongated head housed 3 rows of serrated teeth. A whip-like tail with a spiked end lashed back and forth, leaving scratch marks on the metal floor. "Behold the Ravager," Admiral Gray announced proudly. "Engineered from the most lethal predators of 12 worlds, enhanced with cybernetic improvements, and trained to kill with maximum efficiency." The Ravager demonstrated its capabilities by shredding a reinforced metal target dummy into pieces with terrifying speed. Its claws left deep gouges in the floor, and its tail could snap through metal poles like twigs. The alien crew cheered at each display of destruction. Throughout the demonstration, Wilson merely nodded thoughtfully, occasionally making notes on his tablet. This continued to infuriate Admiral Gray, who had expected, and wanted, to see fear in the human's eyes. "Well," the Admiral demanded after the Ravager had reduced the last dummy to scrap metal, "do you now understand the futility of resistance?" Wilson looked up from his tablet. "Very impressive, Admiral. The genetic engineering must have taken considerable effort. Would you like to see our beast now?" "By all means," Admiral Gray replied with a dismissive wave. "Though I doubt anything you present could match the Ravager's power." Wilson spoke quietly into his communicator. A small side door opened, and a human handler walked in, holding something on a leash. The aliens leaned forward, straining to see this supposedly comparable creature. Walking calmly beside the handler was a German shepherd in a police canine unit vest. Admiral Gray stared in silence for several long seconds. Then he began laughing, a harsh sound like grinding metal. His crew joined in nervously. "This is your beast," he finally managed to say between laughs. "This tiny fur-covered creature. It's not even as large as the Ravager's head." The handler, Officer Reed according to his uniform, stood confidently with his dog, who sat attentively at his side. The German shepherd, Max according to his vest, watched the proceedings with alert interest, his ears perked forward. "Size isn't everything, Admiral," Wilson replied calmly. "Would you like to see what Max can do? You expect this pet to compete with the Ravager?" Admiral Gray's 4 eyes blinked in disbelief. "This is an insult to the Dominion." "Not at all," Wilson assured him. "We simply have different approaches to working with other species. Max here is the result of thousands of years of partnership between humans and dogs. No genetic engineering required." The Ravager roared, making the alien crew cheer again. Max tilted his head at the sound, but remained perfectly calm and focused on his handler. "This is absurd," Admiral Gray declared. "I demand a direct comparison of capabilities." Wilson's smile widened just slightly. Of course, Admiral. That's exactly what we were hoping for. Shall we begin the real demonstration? The Admiral had no way of knowing that his carefully engineered monster was about to learn a lesson about the difference between raw power and intelligent training. The real show was about to begin. Officer Reed stepped forward with Max, moving to the center of the arena while the Ravager was temporarily contained behind safety barriers. The contrast between the two beasts couldn't have been more striking. The massive, genetically engineered monster versus a well-groomed German shepherd with alert ears and intelligent eyes. First, Reed announced, we'll demonstrate basic command and control. He unclipped Max's leash, letting him stand freely. The alien observers muttered among themselves, probably expecting the dog to run away in fear. Instead, Max sat calmly, eyes fixed on Reed, waiting for instructions. Reed moved through a series of hand signals and verbal commands. Max responded instantly to each one. Sit, stay, down, come, heel. His movements were precise and controlled, each action performed with perfect discipline. Admiral Gray watched from his platform, his initial amusement turning to confusion. The creature appears well-trained, but these are mere tricks. How does this compare to a war beast? Patience, Admiral, Wilson replied. We're just getting started. Officer Reed, perhaps we could demonstrate some more advanced capabilities. Reed nodded and pulled out several small objects from his vest. Max, find, he commanded, hiding the items throughout the arena. Max's entire demeanor changed. He was still controlled, but now moved with purpose, his nose working systematically across the ground. Within minutes, he had located and retrieved every hidden object, even those placed in difficult-to-reach spots. Impressive tracking abilities, Lieutenant Pike muttered, earning a glare from Admiral Gray. Next came agility demonstrations. Max navigated a hastily assembled obstacle course with grace and speed that seemed to defy his size. He scaled walls, jumped precise distances, crawled under barriers, and maneuvered through tight spaces, all while maintaining perfect obedience to Reed's commands. Now, Reed announced, we'll demonstrate protection capabilities. Another handler entered the arena, wearing heavily padded protective gear. At Reed's command, Max transformed. The friendly, obedient dog became a focused guardian. When the attacker threatened Reed, Max responded with controlled aggression, taking down the padded handler with precise bites to the protected arm, releasing instantly on command. The alien crew watched in growing silence as Max switched seamlessly between aggressive protection and gentle obedience. After taking down the attacker, he immediately returned to Reed's side, tail wagging, ready for his next command. But it's so small, Admiral Gray sputtered. How can it possibly? Wilson interrupted gently. Size isn't everything, Admiral. Max here represents something your Ravager doesn't. True partnership. He's not controlled by fear or genetic programming. He works with us because of trust and training. As if to emphasize the point, Reed took out a ball and tossed it across the arena. Max chased it with pure joy, bringing it back and dropping it at Reed's feet, his whole body wiggling with excitement. The sight of the supposedly fearsome beast playing like a puppy caused several human spectators to laugh. This is ridiculous, Admiral Gray declared. You expect us to be impressed by a creature that chases balls. What impresses me, Wilson replied, is that Max can switch from playful companion to serious protector in an instant, all while maintaining perfect control. Can your Ravager do that? The Admiral's scales flushed a darker color. The Ravager doesn't need to. It's a pure weapon designed for maximum destruction. And therein lies the difference, Wilson said quietly. Max isn't a weapon. He's a partner. He thinks, learns, adapts. He can show affection or aggression, can play with children or take down criminals, can find lost people or detect dangerous substances. All because he wants to work with us, not because we engineered him to do so. The alien observers watched as Max continued his demonstrations, following complex series of commands, working through scenarios that required problem-solving, and showing intelligence that clearly surprised them. Even Admiral Gray had fallen silent, his 4 eyes tracking the dog's movements with growing uncertainty. Perhaps, Wilson suggested, we should move on to a direct comparison of capabilities. I believe you wanted to see how Max would fare against your Ravager. Admiral Gray straightened up, his confidence returning. Yes, let's see how your partner handles real combat. The Admiral had no idea that he was about to witness something that would challenge everything he thought he knew about power and control. The real test was about to begin. The tension in the hangar reached a new height as both sides prepared for the direct comparison. The Ravager paced behind its barrier, its cybernetically enhanced muscles rippling under its scaled hide. Max sat calmly beside Officer Reed, watching the proceedings with focused attention. We'll begin with target acquisition and response time, announced the test coordinator, a neutral observer from the Earth's military. Each beast will be presented with multiple targets. They must neutralize them in order of assigned priority. The Ravager went first. As soon as its restraints were released, it launched itself at the targets, humanoid dummies of varying sizes placed around the arena. The alien beast tore through them with raw power, reducing each to shreds in seconds. However, it attacked randomly, showing no regard for the priority markers they wore. Magnificent, Admiral Gray declared. Complete destruction. Now let's see your little fur beast match that. The shredded targets were cleared away and replaced. Officer Reed stepped forward with Max, who remained perfectly still despite the lingering scent of the Ravager in the arena. The targets were marked similarly to the previous set. Max, find hostile. Priority marks, Reed commanded quietly. The difference was immediately apparent. Max moved with purpose, first targeting the dummy marked as the highest threat. Instead of simply destroying it, he executed a precise takedown, disabling the threat with minimal damage. He then moved systematically through the remaining targets in exact priority order, demonstrating both speed and control. Interesting approach, Lieutenant Pike noted, earning another glare from Admiral Gray. The Earth Beast shows tactical awareness. The next test involved obstacle navigation. The Ravager blazed through the course, simply smashing through barriers it couldn't climb over. While impressive, it left a trail of destruction that would have been catastrophic in a real environment. Max, on the other hand, navigated the same course without damaging a single structure. He leaped, crawled, and maneuvered with precision, actually completing the course faster than the Ravager despite his smaller size. Speed means nothing without power. Admiral Gray protested. Show us how your beast handles a real threat. The coordinator nodded. The next test will involve protecting a designated individual from multiple attackers. This time, the Ravager's performance was truly concerning. When the simulated attackers approached its handler, it attacked everything in sight, including equipment and barriers meant to be left alone. The alien crew had to use remote controls to prevent it from turning on them. Max's demonstration proved starkly different. When faced with multiple threats to Officer Reed, he responded with calculated force. He disabled attackers without causing serious injury, maintained awareness of his surroundings, and most importantly, stayed responsive to commands throughout the entire exercise. But it's not destroying anything. Admiral Gray shouted in frustration. How can this be effective combat? Because combat isn't always about destruction, Wilson explained patiently. Sometimes precision and control are more important than raw power. The final test involved tracking and detection. Hidden objects were placed throughout the arena, some benign and others marked as dangerous. The Ravager's enhanced senses detected the objects, but it simply destroyed everything it found. Max, however, indicated different finds with different signals, sitting for harmless objects, giving a special bark for dangerous ones. He even discovered several items the Ravager had missed entirely, using his sense of smell in ways the engineered beast couldn't match. As the demonstrations concluded, the difference in approaches became impossible to ignore. The Ravager had shown tremendous power, but no discretion. Max had demonstrated intelligence, control, and adaptability that the alien beast couldn't match. "This proves nothing," Admiral Gray insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. "A true battle would be different." "Would you like to test that theory?" Wilson asked quietly. Before the Admiral could respond, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. The Ravager, agitated by the long series of tests, had begun attacking its containment field. "Control it," Admiral Gray ordered his handlers. They frantically worked their control panels, but the beast had gone into a frenzy. As the barrier began to crack, Max's ears perked forward. He looked up at Officer Reed, waiting for commands. The real test was about to begin, and it wasn't going to be a demonstration. The containment field shattered with a deafening crack. Alarms blared throughout the station as the Ravager burst free, its cybernetic enhancements glowing an angry red. The alien handlers frantically pressed their control devices, but the beast had gone beyond their ability to restrain it. "Everyone evacuate," Wilson shouted, already moving people toward the exits. "Clear the lower level." The Ravager's first target was its own containment unit, reducing the sophisticated equipment to twisted metal. Its 6 legs carried it in erratic patterns across the arena floor, tail whipping out to destroy anything in reach. The alien crew's attempts to activate its control implants only seemed to enrage it further. "This is impossible," Admiral Gray bellowed. "The control systems are fail-safe." Officer Reed remained calm despite the chaos. Max stood at attention beside him, muscles tense but completely focused. The German Shepherd's eyes tracked every movement of the rampaging alien beast, but he held his position, waiting for commands. "Reed, get out of there," someone shouted from the observation deck. But Reed stood his ground. "Max, protect and contain. Minimal force." Max's transformation was instant. Gone was the playful dog from earlier demonstrations. In his place stood a precise tactical weapon, moving with purpose and controlled aggression. He circled the Ravager, staying just out of reach of its thrashing tail and snapping jaws. The size difference was almost comical. The alien beast stood 3 times taller than Max at its shoulder. But where the Ravager's movements were wild and destructive, Max's were calculated and efficient. He darted in to nip at the beast's legs, never staying still long enough to be caught. "What is it doing?" Lieutenant Pike asked, watching in fascination. "It's not really attacking." Wilson smiled grimly. "He's hurting it, moving it away from vital areas and people." True enough, Max was systematically driving the Ravager away from the station's structural supports and toward an empty section of the arena. Each quick dart and bark was precisely timed, using the alien beast's own aggressive responses against it. The Ravager, frustrated by its inability to catch the smaller, faster opponent, began to show signs of fatigue. Its movements became more predictable as rage overtook its engineered intelligence. That's when Max switched tactics. Working in perfect sync with Officer Reed's hand signals, Max executed a series of quick maneuvers that forced the Ravager to turn in circles, chasing him. The alien beast's multiple legs began to tangle as it tried to keep up with the nimble dog. "Incredible," Lieutenant Pike whispered. "It's using the target's superior size against it." The Ravager finally lost its balance, its legs tangling as it tried to track Max's movements. The mighty beast crashed to the floor with an impact that shook the entire arena. Before it could recover, Max had positioned himself near its head, teeth bared but not attacking. The alien beast tried to rise but found itself unable to coordinate its multiple limbs properly. Exhaustion from its rage and the complex maneuvering had taken its toll. It let out a frustrated roar that turned into more of a wheeze. Admiral Gray watched in stunned silence as his ultimate weapon lay panting on the floor, effectively neutralized by what he had dismissed as a mere pet. The Earth beast hadn't even drawn blood. "Control systems back online," an alien technician reported. The implants are responding again. But it was Max who kept the Ravager contained until the alien crew could properly secure it, never moving from his position, never letting his guard down. Only when Officer Reed called him back did he return to his handler's side, still alert but calm. That, Wilson said quietly to Admiral Gray, is the difference between a weapon and a partner. Your beast has power, but Max has something more valuable: intelligence, training, and the ability to think independently while following commands. The Admiral's scales had paled considerably. He watched as Max accepted a quiet word of praise from Reed, the dog's tail wagging slightly even as he maintained his protective stance. Perhaps, Admiral Gray admitted slowly, we have something to learn about the true nature of beasts. The demonstration had turned into a real-world test, and the results were undeniable. True strength, it seemed, wasn't just about size and power. In the aftermath of the Ravager's rampage, the demonstration arena lay in partial ruins. Twisted metal and broken barriers littered the floor where the alien beast had lost control. Yet in one corner, untouched by the destruction, Officer Reed was checking Max for any injuries, while the German shepherd remained alert but calm. Admiral Gray descended from the observation platform, his steps careful and measured. His earlier arrogance had been replaced by something new: curiosity. He stopped at a respectful distance, all four eyes fixed on the Earth team. Your beast, Max, the Admiral began, struggling with the unfamiliar name. He could have killed the Ravager, couldn't he? Reed looked up from his inspection of Max. He could have tried, but that wasn't the mission. The goal was containment with minimal casualties, exactly what he achieved. The Ravager had been secured in a reinforced containment unit, heavily sedated after its outburst. Even through the thick walls, they could hear its occasional frustrated growls. The contrast between the two beasts couldn't have been more apparent, one requiring sedation and restraints, the other sitting calmly at his handler's feet. "But I don't understand," Lieutenant Pike said, stepping forward. "The Ravager has enhanced strength, cybernetic improvements, genetic modifications. How did your unenhanced creature defeat it?" Wilson joined them on the arena floor. "That's where you're wrong. Max has the most powerful enhancement of all: thousands of years of partnership with humans, creating a bond that no laboratory could engineer." As if to demonstrate this bond, Max turned to look at Reed, reading his handler's subtle body language and shifting positions slightly to maintain better coverage of the group. There was an intelligence in his eyes that even Admiral Gray couldn't deny. "Watch," Reed said, running through a series of silent hand signals. Max responded instantly, moving through complex patterns of behavior, advancing, retreating, changing positions, all without a single verbal command. "The Ravager has raw power," Wilson explained, "but Max has something more valuable: the ability to think, to assess situations, to make decisions while still following commands. He doesn't just react, he plans." Admiral Gray studied the dog with new respect. During the containment, he was manipulating the Ravager's responses, leading it into exhaustion. "Exactly," Reed confirmed. Max understood the goal wasn't destruction. He used the Ravager's size and aggression against it, letting it tire itself out without risking major damage to the station or personnel. A technician approached with readings from the incident. "Sir, analyzing the combat data, the Earth beast's movements were precise to within millimeters. Every action had a purpose. The Ravager expended approximately 4 times more energy trying to catch him." "Strategy over strength," Wilson said quietly. "Intelligence over raw power. These are the true measures of a superior creature." Max's ears suddenly perked up, and he turned toward the secured containment unit. A moment later, alarms indicated the Ravager was beginning to wake from its sedation. Without any commands needed, Max positioned himself between the humans and the potential threat. His posture remained relaxed but ready, showing none of the Ravager's uncontrolled aggression. "That," Admiral Gray said, pointing at Max's autonomous response, "that right there. No orders given, yet he acts to protect. How is this possible without control implants? Because he wants to, Reed explains simply. He's not forced to obey. He chooses to. That's what makes him so effective. He can think independently while still working within our command structure. The Admiral was silent for a long moment, watching as Max maintained his protective position, while simultaneously staying responsive to Reed's subtle signals. "I believe," Admiral Gray finally said, "that we have gravely misunderstood what makes a truly superior beast. Perhaps there are things the Dominion could learn from Earth's approach." As if understanding the significance of the moment, Max turned to look at the Admiral, his intelligent eyes seeming to assess the alien leader. There was no fear in his gaze, no aggression, just the calm confidence of a creature who knew exactly what he was capable of. The true beast, it turned out, wasn't the one with the most teeth or the strongest muscles. It was the one with the wisdom to know when not to use them. 2 weeks after the dramatic demonstration, the Earth station had been fully repaired. In a surprising turn of events, Admiral Gray had requested a special session to discuss cooperation between Earth and the Dominion, specifically focused on understanding Earth's approach to working with animals. The meeting room had been modified to accommodate both species comfortably. Max lay at Officer Reed's feet, occasionally lifting his head to track movement, but otherwise perfectly relaxed. The Ravager remained on the Dominion ship, undergoing a complete review of its control systems. "Our scientists have analyzed the combat data," Admiral Gray began, placing a datapad on the table. "They are impressed and confused. Your beast's response patterns show decision-making capabilities that our engineers thought impossible without cybernetic enhancement." Wilson smiled. "That's because you've been trying to create the perfect weapon. We've been building the perfect partner." Lieutenant Pike, who had become particularly interested in Earth's training methods, pulled up a holographic display. "Look at these neural response patterns. The Earth beast shows complex problem-solving abilities, emotional intelligence, and tactical awareness, all while maintaining complete devotion to its handler. The bond is the key," Reed explained, reaching down to scratch behind Max's ears. The dog's tail thumped against the floor, but his alert posture never wavered. "It's not about domination or control. It's about trust and mutual respect." Admiral Gray leaned forward, his scales shifting colors in what humans had learned was a sign of deep thought. "Our entire approach to bioengineering has been focused on creating the ultimate warrior beast. We never considered partnership." As if to demonstrate this point, Max suddenly stood up, ears forward. Moments later, the station's maintenance crew passed by the door, something only his enhanced hearing had detected. After determining there was no threat, he settled back down, but not before giving Reed a quick glance to confirm his assessment. "That right there," the Admiral pointed. "No commands given, yet he maintains constant awareness and communicates his findings. Our Ravager would have simply attacked anything it detected." Wilson nodded. "That's because Max thinks of himself as part of the team. He's not just following programming. He's actively participating in keeping everyone safe." The Admiral's next words clearly cost him some pride. "The Dominion requests Earth's assistance in developing new training protocols. Perhaps there is more to strength than we understood." "We'd be happy to help," Wilson replied. "Though I should warn you, it's not a quick process. The relationship between humans and dogs took thousands of years to develop. But it's worth the time," Reed added. "Because what you get isn't just an obedient soldier. You get a friend who would give their life to protect yours, not because they're programmed to, but because they want to." As the meeting concluded, Admiral Gray had one final request. "Would it be possible, that is, might I be permitted to interact with Max?" Reed smiled and gestured to the Admiral. "Max, say hello." Max approached the alien leader calmly, showing no fear of the being who stood twice his height. He sat in front of the Admiral, offering a paw in the classic gesture of canine friendship. Admiral Gray, the commander of the mighty Dominion fleet, carefully shook hands with a German shepherd, his scales flushed with what humans now recognize as pleasure when Max allowed him to pat his head. "Remarkable," the Admiral whispered. "All this power, yet so gentle when choosing to be." The meeting marked the beginning of a new chapter in Earth-Dominion relations. The aliens who had arrived as conquerors were leaving as students, eager to learn about a different kind of strength, one based not on dominance, but on partnership. As they left the station, Lieutenant Pike was overheard asking if Earth might consider a cultural exchange program involving their K9 training units, and Max, the tiny fur beast who had changed the Dominion's understanding of power, simply watched them go, ready as always for whatever challenge came next. The greatest lesson had been learned. True strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when and how to use power. And sometimes that wisdom comes in unexpected packages with 4 legs and a wagging tail.